a family doctor in a local doctor's surgery located in Melbourne. He's been a practicing doctor for 30 years. Yesterday, he was raided by the Department of Health and Human Services, or the DHHS, by 7 officials. He was raided. It was shared on the mainstream media. It has also been shared on an independent journalist site. An independent journalist was actually present to film the whole scenario. As they raided him, they said it was due to him giving out exemptions to people like myself. I have never seen this doctor. However, given everything going on, I had multiple people, including my legal representative, say to me, go and find a new GP who will grant you the exemption. Again, your case being clear cut. Me feeling as though, as well, I do have an extensive history. It's not as simple as me just finding a GP and having a 10-minute consultation. Someone had actually mentioned to me this doctor may be able to help me. The person actually that gave me the contact number was someone in a political party in Australia. When I phoned his receptionist, I was told he's not accepting new patients. And that is fair enough. That has been said for quite a few doctors. So I just left it at that. Yesterday, I found out via the news that this exact doctor had been raided by the DHHS. What they had done, they have taken all the private patient documents, all of their health records. They have seized them. They have seized his logbooks for his for any of his appointments in his appointment book. They were harassing his receptionist, asking what her vaccination status was. And he is not allowed to practice at the moment due to this. And this all eventuated yesterday.
Wow. Now, obviously, there could be something about this doctor's story that you don't know. There could be something that justifies that kind of intervention. On the other hand, it certainly does seem consistent with a world in which I certainly know here in the U.S. that doctors who are alarmed by the adverse event signal associated with the vaccines are under intense pressure to do things that do not seem to be in their correct medical judgment. So, you know, there's also the possibility that this is just simply authoritarianism marching through your medical structure and punishing and blocking the action of doctors who are using their own judgment and deciding who needs an exemption, which is, of course, exactly what you would want a doctor to do, to evaluate an individual case and say, yes, this person needs an exemption, that person doesn't need an exemption. That's the system functioning. And here it may well have triggered a raid and the capturing of private citizens' medical files by the government. So I guess that brings us to the question. You know, I certainly hope that this broadcast reaches whoever needs to be reached in Australia, and that the sheer embarrassment of your terrifying story causes, at the very least, your individual case to be resolved in a way that protects your health as best we can collectively do so. I also hope that anyone else who needs an exemption finds one, because this story causes the necessary discretion to be restored to the system so that it does not generate tragedy after tragedy and podcast after podcast about terrifying losses of the ability to earn. For example, and just for starters, I mean, really, at some level, you are being placed in a predicament where your livelihood will be lost if you do not accept a vaccination that puts your life in jeopardy. And if you do not take this life-jeopardizing vaccination, you lose a substantial fraction of your natural rights as a citizen. Mm-hmm. Your right to move about freely, your right to earn a living. You become a partial prisoner in your home. Mm-hmm. And that is simply perfectly inconsistent with the rights that the founders of the Western way of life recognized. You have the right to live normally, and there's nothing about this pandemic that justifies this level of authoritarianism. And to have this level of authoritarianism pushing vaccines of such low quality and such dubious safety, especially pushing them towards somebody with such vulnerability, really reveals the entire problem. The mm-hmm. system is absolutely out of control. We citizens don't know what it's about, but we can tell from your story and many others that we are dealing with customer service. We are not dealing with a public health apparatus. We are not dealing with government in any normal sense. We are dealing with customer service, which wishes to deny us something and will give us every excuse in the book in order to do so. Mm-hmm. And I did not think we would ever find ourselves here. I mean, just think about the fact of us having this discussion across a diagonal over the Pacific Ocean, that we should have to talk about the failure of the West because nothing else captures a failure that stretches from Australia to North America to Europe. It's remarkable. And I wish I knew what it was we were supposed to do next. I do have the sense that many people died to provide us the liberties that we are now losing, and that is supposed to be capturing our attention in a way that it has not yet.
Yeah, it feels quite surreal, especially when Poland was even offering that its dual citizens who were living in Victoria essentially refuge over in Poland to get out of our state due to what is going on over here. When we're having the Polish embassy saying things like that, it's what have we become as, a first world westernized country where our citizens are needing to seek refuge elsewhere because our home state is illivable.
This is terrifying. As a Jew, I'm 52 years old. When I was a kid, the Holocaust seemed like ancient history. I, of course, now as an adult know that it was not, that it was very recent. But I certainly was led to understand by my elders who had seen the Holocaust, that it could happen anywhere and that one needed to be alert to the fact that this authoritarian menace can emerge, that this is a defect in the human psyche, and the fact that things seem to be humming along at one moment does not mean that you don't need to be aware of the possibility, because it can emerge at any time. What no one ever alerted me to, and what I think no one ever contemplated, was that it could happen everywhere at once. Mm-hmm. That's a terrifying possibility. And I am struck by the fact that Australia is certainly one of the places that would have been highest on my list of places to run to if my own country had ever done this. I am now watching, I know, two people personally, one an individual and one the father of a family, who are literally fleeing Australia. They've sold what they have, and they are doing everything in their power to get out, because the authoritarianism is clearly advancing, and nobody knows where it stops. I don't know what it's going to take to wake us up, but I think the fact is this isn't exactly what we were warned about, but it's clearly a close relative of it.